Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King coming to you live from the couch of solitude. And today we're talking about my new comic, Quest. Yes, I've been talking about this in my YouTube videos for months. It's my new epic fantasy comic called Quest. The first issue launched on Kickstarter earlier today. So, over the course of the next however long I end up running, we're going to talk all about the comic. I'm going to show off the campaign. I'm going to talk about the artists that worked on it, the different variant covers. I'll talk about the characters, talk about the story, and also answer any questions at all that you, loyal viewers, may have. So, I had a little bit of technical difficulty, and I managed to enter this broadcast booth here on StreamYard 1 second before I went live. So I'm going to need just a minute to get everything all called up here. Oh, I think I was muted there for a minute. So here's my page. Quest number 1, Epic Sword and Sorcery Action, a Magical Realm. Ragtag party adventurers face an impossible quest for the fate of their world at stake. Tartan Phantom, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. It says, good to see you have your +2 Pill of Serenity for the live stream. And yes, I figured out that I was muted. I don't have anything visually to tell me. It's just pure luck that I happened to look down and see that I was muted. Otherwise, I could have continued like that for the entire live stream. Never would have known, but thanks for pointing that out. Let's see. But I think I'm back talking now. So what I was starting to say before I realized that no one could hear me is that I want to thank everybody for all the support. You can see here we're about 11 and a half hours into the campaign. We're already $1,100, 43 backers. So really want to thank everybody for all the support. It's really exciting. You know, the official goal for this campaign is 2,900. So, you know, we're over more than a third of the way there already. That's all thanks to you. I mean, I've been, for the last month, I've been spreading the word as much as I can. And we did end up having 130 followers before launch, which is more than twice as many as I've ever had for any of my previous Kickstarter. So I was, you know, optimistic, hopeful that we do well, and so far we're doing very well. And again, that's just thanks to all of you. So I thought what I'd do now is I'll just show off the page and a couple cool things on it, and then answer any questions that you may have about Quest or anything else. So here's the main cover. This is drawn by the interior artist, Marcos Lima. Is very, very good, very happy with his art. And we see our party here looking out over the wilderness. I'll share a little behind the scenes when I had this sort of idea in mind for the cover. And one of my big touchstones is the cover of Avengers 256. My first issue of Avengers with John Buscema, where the Avengers are climbing up on this mountain outcropping and looking out at the savage land down below. So I had it in mind that I wanted something like that, just to show the party, to show the scope of the adventure that they're going on. And so we have our group here. I'll talk about the characters in a little bit. But I also want to show off while we're looking at this over here on the sidebar. If we scroll down here, we're going to see something exciting, and that is this right here. So over here on the right, after 15 years of people begging for it, Kickstarter has finally added the ability to add images to the pledge levels over here. So instead of just text, you can now actually see what you're backing, and makes it much easier for the backers to just, scroll down here and go, yep, there's the cover I wanted, boom. And they've done the same for add-ons. So once you click on this, it brings you to the add-on page if you want to add anything on. And before, it was just like a list of things. You had to know exactly what you were looking for. But now the add-ons all have these images too, and it makes it so much easier to get exactly what you want. So I don't know why it took them so long to do it, but it's awesome that they finally did, because it makes it so much easier, but it also means that I can streamline the main part of the page itself. Because I don't have to have nearly as much information on it. And so we'll see on my main page, it's much more streamlined than my previous campaigns. Here we talk a little bit about the story. 200 years after their world was devastated by a magical war, the heroes of a new age seek to recover the forgotten legacies of their lost home. Thrown together by fate, this ragtag band of adventurers are charged with an impossible mission: survive 1,000 miles of haunted dungeons, bizarre monsters, ruined castles, and magical traps, or see their world die. Welcome to Quest. And then I talk about that we have a little picture to try and give, again, a little bit of the scope. And then I talk here about, this is basically my love letter to all the fantasy stuff. I love fantasy stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, but also classic comics like Warlord, Savage Sword, Conan. I love playing fantasy video games. I've played like all of them. I love RPGs and MMOs. So I've played dozens and dozens of those, and books, of course, like Lord of the Rings. So I just talk about like all of that's gone into the stew to sort of create this. Tartan Phantom says, it's about time Kickstarter did that. Indiegogo has been doing that for over a year now. I don't know what took them so long, but I don't think they ever would have done it if it wasn't for all the competition. In the last year or so, there are all these new competitors have popped up. There's what's it called? Zoop is one, and Crowdfunder, with no E at the end, Crowdfunder. And there's a couple others. They're new crowdfunding platforms, and a lot of those are specifically, when they're creating the interfaces, they're looking at all the problems with Kickstarter and fixing them. And so I think the competition has spurred Kickstarter to finally get their act together, which they didn't really have to do when they were, it's just them and Indiegogo. And, I think they were a little bit complacent, but now they've started doing some more quality of life things to improve the interface, and it's really great. I love maps, particularly in fantasy books. You always got to have a map. So here I have a little map of the area that we see in this issue, and then we get a little bit of the background of the story. It says, for decades, Highvale stood at the edge of the borderlands. 2 years ago, the Paladin Dimitrik cleared the high pass of fiends, opening the way for the lost lands beyond. An outpost was built at Brereton, but winter snows closed the pass, leaving the fort in desperate need of supplies. With Dimitrik gone missing, though, none dare risk the trip. None but a desperate and brave few. I put this in here because I start right in the middle of the action. It's all about, I love, again, this sort of Bronze Age fantasy comics, and Warlord in particular is a big touchstone. And Warlord has a thing where every issue starts off with, in the middle of action, you turn the page and there's a 2-page spread, right? And I wanted to do that, so that's what we started. There's you can see here in the art, there's some people here. They're in a camp, and there's some gnolls. that are watching them, and then the gnolls attack, and they're ambushed by the gnolls. And then we have the 2-page spread. Now in Kickstarter, there's a maximum image width of 680 pixels, so I couldn't show the full, like, the scope of it. But this here is a 2-page spread. We turn the page, and it's the Paladin Vest riding in to save the day, lopping off this gnoll's head. And because we're starting right in the middle of the action on the first issue, like, we don't know who any of these characters are. So I have the comic, the inside front cover is going to have a thing with who the characters are, basically the story up to this point, because we're sort of starting what for us is the beginning, is a little bit into their adventure. And then as the issue goes along, we're going to catch up and learn who all the characters are and stuff. But to give you a little bit of backstory, I've included some of that as supplemental material. Just because not everyone reads comics the same way, and for some people it might be confusing, so I thought it'd be helpful to have that guide to the characters and the plot. And then, as we see in this, on page 4, the fight continues, and we see that they're protecting the wagon, because inside is this old dwarf that they're all protecting. And it looks bad for our heroes, but again, the Paladin Vest, the gnolls did not count on a paladin being there, and she lops off their heads. Wow! So that's the first 5 pages of this story. So each issue is going to be, most of the issues are going to be 24 pages. I'm really passionate about this project. I'll talk more about this later, but I already have an artist who's almost done drawing issue 3. So I've got issue 2 drawn. It still needs to be colored and stuff like that, but issue 2 is all drawn, and 3 is almost finished. He's currently working on page 19, I think. And so one of those issues is going to be 25 pages instead of 24, because the artist wanted to do an extra page, basically. So it's going to be a full-size, 24-page comic, and we just see the first 5 pages here, but there's going to be a lot of action. There's an adage in writing that action is character. Like, you can learn what a character's character is, like what their personality is, what their, who they are, by what they do. And so it's going to take a while for us to really dig into the backstories of the characters, because there's going to be so much action, but we'll see sort of who their personalities are will be revealed as we go by all the action. There's going to be a lot of it. So, and then we have the covers. So I showed you the main cover already. This is the Marcos Lima, the main cover. It's $10 plus shipping for the regular cover. And then I have a bunch of variant covers by some awesome artists. So for $15, we have this cover by Erwin J. Rosa, which is what I'm calling the movie poster variant. And he really knocked it out of the park. He does a lot of art that's sort of like kind of like 80s movie posters, or like if you've seen Bill Sienkiewicz's like movie adaptations from Marvel, it's sort of that style. And I'd seen him do some of this work on other Kickstarter books, so I wanted to bring him on board, and he did a great job. People seem to really like the cover a lot, and also it's been great for marketing, because it really shows everything that I want to show about the series. So I've been using this. The Marcos Lima, the main cover, does too. It shows the whole group and gives you the scope and stuff. So I've been kind of using both of them, but this one really is the one that I've been showing the most, sort of tease the comic. So I was really pleased with that. Then at $18, we have the classic throwback variant. This is obviously the cover that's homaging the cover of Conan the Barbarian #1 from Marvel, 1970, by Barry Windsor Smith. I drew this, and it's a very close homage. So like really like the guy in the foreground, all the figures that are in the big battle in the background, that's all like 99% Barry Windsor Smith. I was copying that as closely as I could. Of course, the figure of Vess I had to completely draw myself, other than the sword, which is very similar to the original. But so this is all me. And the figure down here, I turned this woman on the Conan cover into one of the characters. This is Sarana, she's a fighter who's one of the characters in issue 1. It's part of our adventuring party. So I changed, her costume and stuff. But I love doing these homage covers. I really, really enjoy. It's a ton of work, but I really enjoy making the trade dress. So the logos and all of this stuff. Some of these things, like this here, where it says the first time in comic book form, that's actually from the original. I got a really high resolution scan and just use that. But some of this stuff, like where it says Vess the Paladin, I had to figure out what font they used in the original comic from 1970. And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of me figuring out what the closest font is and how to make it look like the original. And I really enjoy doing these. One thing about a lot of these is I try and make stuff that I like myself. I make stuff that I want in my own collection. So that was my guiding principle for this cover is doing something that I want in my own collection. And the same is true for the $20 this variant. Now this is a very special variant. As you can see from the cover, it's designed to look like a first edition old school D&D module from the early 1980s. But it's not just a variant cover. This is the first time I'm doing this, but this is not just a variant cover. It's a variant edition. This version of the comic has 8 extra pages that none of the other ones do. It's not comic pages. What it is it's 8 pages of gaming supplement material. So you can play the story from this issue in your own home game. So basically, the supplement materials are going to have the rules for how paladins work in this world. It's going to have the rules for the new monster type that they fight at the end of the issue, the big boss that they fight at the end of issue 1. It has like the rules for what that monster is. And then there's a mini adventure. There's I've got a map of a dungeon that the characters encounter in this issue, and a DM that I'm working with named Matt Timmons, who is on the YouTube channel Really Dicey. He's done like a little adventure that's like 10 or 12 rooms, and so you can play through the location and fight the monsters and use the characters. And what we're trying to do, we'll see if it comes together, is we're actually going to play his adventure through. I'm going to make character sheets for the characters from the comic, and me and my wife and friends, we're going to play out the story of the issue in a home game. We're going to record it and put it here on YouTube for everybody. So hopefully people will like that. I'm just thinking it'll be a lot of fun to do. But that was the idea behind this. I really wanted to do this because I thought it would be fun, but also to kind of bring in some of the gaming audience. I thought it'd be really cool to have this special edition. And I'm going to do one of these every issue. So when we get a few issues in, we're going to have the rules for several different classes. We're going to have several different new monsters, several locations, and sometime down the road, eventually, if we get enough of these out, who knows, I might put out like a guidebook to the world that you can get separately with all of that supplement material. But for now, this is the only way to get it, is to buy this edition. If you buy this edition, the PDF will also have the bonus pages, but the PDF edition is not available right now. So at the moment, I decided to just make these pages only available to people who buy the physical copy of this. Okay, so then we have this cover here by Carlos Herrera. Now, Carlos Herrera is the artist of the wildly popular Kickstarter comic series Nightwolf. They just put out issue 7. I think the campaign for issue 7 just ended like 2 weeks ago, and so Carlos managed to find time during all of that to do this cover of our main character, Vest the Paladin. Um, and this is available in 2 versions. This version is only going to have 50 copies printed. I should have mentioned that all of these have really limited print runs, but this one's super limited, just 50 copies. No logo or anything. It's just like, I just wanted to be Vast's portrait with a black background. But we're also doing for $69, we'll see in a minute, there's a metal cover. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we've got a foil variant. It's really hard to mock up these special editions, but there's going to be a foil virgin variant that I think is going to look really cool, that I've priced at $35. I think it would be really helpful actually to have a copy to show people, because this image I tried to mock up does not do it justice. You kind of need to know what foil comics look like to realize how cool it's going to look. But I think it's going to look really cool. And that, again, is also limited to 50 copies. And then here's the metal variant with some really cheesy animation that I put on it just to show that it's metal. Now, I've never done metal variants before. I am in communication with a couple different printers. The printer I normally use does not make metal covers, but there's 2 or 3 other options that I'm sort of shopping around to figure out which one to go with. So we're going to see how that goes. Now, I've priced it at $69. The metal covers are very expensive to make. They're much more expensive than the regular editions. So that's the main reason for the price. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's an experiment with the metal covers. If it does well, if people really like the metal covers, we're definitely going to see more metal covers in the future. They may not be at this price point. They might be a little bit cheaper or maybe a little more expensive. Part of it depends on how much I had to pay the artist and that sort of thing. And then finally, we have, not shown here, but over here on the right side, there's the set of all 7 covers. So if you want to get all of them, you get a big discount for getting the whole set of all 7. So that's basically that. Now, as I mentioned, there's a lot of add-ons. Tartan Phantom says, really torn on cover choices. The Herrera cover is gorgeous, but I went with my gut just now back to 2 Scott Harris King cover variants. You did a great job. Well, thank you very much. I see a lot of people in the indie creator community who struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. And for me, I don't, except with my art. So like, I'm very confident that my writing is good. I think the comics I put out are good. Like, they're good quality. The storytelling is there. So like, I see people that feel like they shouldn't even be doing comics because they're imposters. That's not me. But I don't, I really don't think my art is as good as it should be. So I'm surprised though, because a lot of people keep telling me that they really like the art that I'm doing. So I really appreciate the compliment, Rob. And, I always, what I really like doing is the homage covers. So I need to give a lot of the credit to the original artists, which I always try and do. So the D&D cover, the original artist is Errol Otis, who I have, referenced on the page. I have all who they're homaging to. And it'll be in the credits in the comic as well as on the cover. But I appreciate it very much. And, I've mentioned this before, but like those covers, I like doing a series of covers, right? So there's going to be a module throwback, tabletop RPG edition with the bonus pages in the module cover. There's going to be one for every issue. There's also going to be Bronze Age style Vess, the Barbarian cover by me. I've already shown, I think, on Classic Comics Forum, the cover of issue 2. I need to do a couple tweaks because I changed her outfit a little bit, but for that, and that's like a 20-cent Marvel era with the frame box cover for that. So I really love doing them. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do for the issue 3 throwback variant, because I do love doing the homage covers. So it'll probably be an homage to something. I'm just not sure what. I probably shouldn't say because it might be a spoiler for issue 3, but there's a few options. But anyway, thanks so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And also for just the kind words about my art, because there's so many great artists now that are working with me that I sometimes feel a little embarrassed to be putting my stuff up with their stuff, because their stuff is so good. And I've got this killer cover for issue 2. It's not colored yet, but that a new artist that I hadn't worked with before drew for me that's just fantastic. So I can't wait to I've shared it in a couple of places, the black and white version, since it hasn't been colored yet, but it's just really awesome. That's one that when we get to issue 2, there's going to be a metal version of that one because it's just so cool. So here's a little bit back to the page. Dungeon Master. This is about me. I'm just talking about how I started playing D&D in 1980. The story that we're telling in Quest, the original versions of this, I started working on back in the 90s, mid 90s. Like, my character Vess was created, I think, in 94 or 5. I'm not sure which. And I've been working on some version of this story and ever since, really. Here's the picture I took of myself just before I cut my hair. I thought I would take a picture where I looked as much like Alan Moore as possible. So I dug out my first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. I didn't have to do much digging. It's sitting on a display stand on top of my desk. But that's me trying to look like someone that would be warning you about in a 1980s Tom Hanks movie. Now, here's a really cool art. This is a guy by the name of, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Raleigh Marchadesh. And he does these really cool, like, very detailed black and white illustrations. And so I decided to use this for the back cover. So no matter what version you get on the front cover, it's going to have this on the back. And Raleigh he's already drawn the back cover for issue 2 for me. He's currently working on the back cover for issue 3. So I'm happy with his stuff. We'll see how the first 3 issues go on Kickstarter, but my plan right now is to continue to bring Raleigh back for future issues as well. I like having the consistency with the artists as much as possible. And it's not always possible because a lot of times artists aren't available because they, with the freelancers, they've taken other gigs or whatever. But I really like this. It captured the sort of feel of the illustrations in the old D&D books from the 80s, like the Monsters Manuals and stuff like the Fiend Folio. So, yeah, I really like what Raleigh did here. And then we have all of the other people who worked on the book. I noticed that actually one of my graphics is missing that's supposed to be here. So, but anyway, here's Marcus Lima. He's the interior artist and did the regular front cover. I always want to have the regular cover be by the interior artist. Matthew Timmons, I mentioned, he is a dungeon master who's been playing for 40 years, and he's worked with me on the gaming supplements. And then we have the variant cover artists, Erwin J. Rosa and Carlos Herrera, both gave great covers. Rolly Marchdash, the back cover artist, and then Shane is the flatter. They do the flat colors, and I do the finished colors. And that's pretty much the campaign. So we'll just refresh it here. And I see we've gotten a couple backers. Rob, I know you're one of those, so thank you very much. We're at $1,157, 45 backers. It's a great first day. It's the best first day I've had, both in terms of backing and backers, although it's a little hard to compare apples to apples here because a lot of my earlier campaigns I would launch in the evening instead of in the morning, so it's a little hard to say. But let's see. Tarn Fan asked, did I do the maps? Yes, I did the maps. So the map that I showed earlier, I did this map here. I was looking very closely at an official Lord of the Rings map. So I copied a lot of like how they drew the trees, how they drew the mountains, and like stuff like that. And then I have this font that I got that looks kind of like a cool old font, and drew out the roads and the rivers and the cities and stuff like that. So yeah, I did all the map. And there's going to be a dungeon map in the RPG edition for the dungeon. My DM did a basic map, and I'm going to redraw that. I do like doing the maps. When I was a dungeon master, that was the big thing I liked. I liked doing all the world building more than actually running the game. I'm going to pause here for just a second, get a beverage. There we go. I'll put this on mute so you don't have to hear me guzzling. Hi, Chris. Thanks very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Chris says I'm on board with the classic throwback variant. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. As I was saying earlier, like I try and draw stuff that I want in my own collection because I figure other people might like it. So that was one where I just thought it would be fun to have with my character. So I'm glad you liked it, and I really appreciate the support very much. Rob asks, how about an homage to Warlord 20 for a future cover? Let me just take a quick look at the Grail Crystal Ball cover. I'm on record as saying how much I love Grell's covers for Warlord. I think Warlord, not just Grell's covers, but Warlord covers in general. I think Warlord is consistently some of the best covers. Okay, I see it here. Yeah, it's Crystal Ball cover. I do like the way he's gotten a lot of characters in there. I think there's other covers from Warlord though that I'll probably homage before I get to that one. We may see a first issue special 8 homage. I haven't decided on some of the future issues, but there is going to be partially because I haven't completely written out everything. But I think at the beginning of issue 5. Our action sequence to start issue 5 may involve a dinosaur attack. So that's something where issue 5 may have a first issue special 1 homage or not. We'll see how I feel when I get there. It's always tricky. It's also tricky to sort of balance like what I want to do versus what's going to sell. So like the cover that I did for issue 2, the throwback variant cover, it's less recognizable. The figure is sort of it's a like partial homage. I did a figure that's an homage to Red Sonja by Frank Thorne, but the rest of the cover is kind of original. And issue 3, I don't know. There's certain classic very popular covers that I'm considering homaging. But on the other hand, I do like some of these more obscure ones for my own tastes as well. But as I've mentioned in the last live stream, for issue 2, the RPG variant is going to be based on the Keep on the Borderlands, which is definitely my favorite module. That's the one I have the real nostalgia for. I try and pick the module covers to homage based on what the stories are. And so for issue 1, when I was going through the module covers, that picture just fit what's happening in this issue 1. But issue 2, Keep on the Borderlands, really makes a lot of sense for that story because they're visiting a keep on the Borderlands. And then in issue 3, no spoilers, but that one's going to be, it's not based actually on a module, but it's based on a famous D&D drawing. I think it was from the Player's Handbook. It might have been the Dungeon Master's Guide, called The Paladin in Hell. So that's going to be what the third issue module cover is going to be, a Paladin in Hell. It's going to be very closely based on that well-known D&D illustration. Rob says, my favorite module 2, Keep on the Borderlands, was so easy to use and so easy to modify because it was so huge. Yeah, I mean, it was just basic. There's like a huge, series of tunnels and caves. It had the great map with like 80 rooms or however many rooms, like a huge complex of caves. And so you could just use the map if you wanted to, and scale it up. We did several years ago now. We played a Keep on the Borderlands, but it was leveled up a little bit because we were a little bit higher level. But it's just the classic dungeon crawl. So yeah, I think it was the first module I went through when I started playing back in the day. So I have a lot of fond memories of that. Anyone have any questions? Any questions for me about anything? Anything with the Kickstarter, anything with the comic, anything with anything at all? Anything questions you might have for me about other stuff? I'm happy to answer any of them. I'm going to take a drink while you think of your question. One thing I'll talk a little bit about is the scope of this. Now, I mentioned earlier that, with Crime Busters and Cthulhu vs. Uncle Sam, my other comics, I've been going issue to issue. I get an issue done, I get them, do the Kickstarter, send it out, and then once I have the money, I can use that. This time, I've fronted things up front. Like, issue 2 is almost finished. Issue 3 is almost finished. So I've put out a huge amount of money up front. And the reason I wanted to do that is so that we can get a much faster release schedule. I want to be trying to put out at least 3 issues of Quest every year. So my hope is that we'll get issue 2 of Quest will be out this fall. September is where I'm aiming to put out issue 2. But I have long range plans and medium range plans. So this initial storyline in Quest, this quest that they're on, I think is going to take us through issue 12. I have the first 6 issues pretty well planned out, and then I have the next 6 issues, the basics, right? But I think that's going to bring us to issue 12, and that'll be the end of the quest that starts here in issue 1. And you'll get the answers and you'll get a resolution there. But it's also going to bring up some other things they're going to learn in issue 12. At the end of the quest, it's going to basically lead them into a new quest, right? And so, I have very long range plans for this. We're going to focus on telling a good story for these first 12 issues. And if people like it, it'll continue, for as long as people read it, because I love doing fantasy stuff. Tartan Phantom, do you know if Herrera uses, Carlos Herrera uses a model, if he drew his cover from the mind's eye? It's pretty incredible. I have no idea, to be honest. Carlos, I was very happy that he was able to do the cover for me, because he's very busy. There was a couple things, I've contacted him a couple times since then about doing some other stuff, and he's been too busy really to communicate very much with me about anything. So I really haven't had a chance to talk to him about anything. It was just getting this cover from him, so I don't really know what his process is. Let me show that cover since we're talking about it. We're talking about this cover here. So I don't know. I really just don't know what his process is, whether he has a model, whether he uses like a photos, or there's a lot of artists these days who use like 3D rendering. They have programs where you can have 3D models, so you can position 3D models and you can even change the lighting on them and stuff. So it's like the modern version of the old like model, like little figures that artists would do for poses before they had 3D versions. So he may have created a 3D model and then drawn over that digitally, or he may have done it. I don't know. I honestly can't really answer that, unfortunately. Wish I could, but yeah, I'm not really sure. Let's take a look. We've gotten some more backers. I think that's Chris. Thanks again so much for the support. I really appreciate it. We're at $1,193, 46 backers. I really appreciate all the support. We've just passed the 12-hour mark of the campaign. I was trying to launch right at 9 this morning, but there was a few issues with the campaign page. So I had to fix them before we started. Okay, here's Charlie, Disney Nerd Herders. If anyone is a Disney theme park fan, make sure you check out Disney Nerd Herders on YouTube. Looking forward to Quest coming out. Have you ever thought of putting some of your artwork on merch, like Spreadshirt or Redbubble, t-shirts, coffee mugs, etc.? Yeah, I mean, I have a Redbubble. I have a page on Redbubble with some of the Crime Buster stuff that I did like a year and a half ago. The only person who's bought anything from it is me. I spent like $150 buying my own t-shirts, so I have a bunch of Crime Busters shirts and stuff. I did share that at one point, but it took a lot of time to set up, and I ordered a bunch of different products, and some of them were great and some of them really were kind of crappy, and I wasn't excited about how little control I had over the product, because they have these different subcontractors. When you order it, they'll have the t-shirt made by this company or that company or that company or whoever. And so, again, some of them were really good, and then some of them weren't. I've got one t-shirt that's great, that I still wear a lot. I have 2 other t-shirts that are very basic, and they're fine. They're not anything special, but they work fine. And then I got one shirt where they had done instead of like screen printing the image, they had done like a decal, one of those iron-on decals or something, and that completely disintegrated when it went through the washing machine. So I was a little bit wary of doing a lot more with Redbubble, because I just, I didn't want people to spend so much money on the product and get it, and then it turns out to be crap. and there's really no way for me to control it. But I'm certainly open to it. I've been thinking about, the prints I have, the 11 by 17 prints that people can frame or hang, those I have, and I do have a set of those available. Yeah, Charlie says those decals are awful. They really, and I think the problem was I ordered shirts in different colors. The ones that were white t-shirts were all good because they were just printed the images. But when I did the black t-shirts, I don't think they had a way to print on the black where the colors would come out. And so on the black shirt, they used the decal, and it was just a disaster. Just completely fell apart. So, but I have been thinking about that. Like I meant to go back to that and do some of the Cthulhu stuff, and I never got around to it. And with Quest, I want to do like a series again of prints with the different classes, from like Paladin, Ranger, Wizard, Monk, whatever. At some point, I want to do that, and that I can do myself. But if I want to do the art on other things like shirts, yeah, it's just a matter of finding a company that I'm comfortable with the quality of. I haven't heard of Spreadshirt, so I'll have to look into that. I don't really know anything about them. But anyone else have any other questions about anything? Let me just scroll down here. I mentioned this a couple times, but because the add-ons now have pictures, I didn't need to have my main page cluttered with like massive, huge lists of graphics. Because when you go to the add-on page, you can see everything you want. But I did want to highlight here that you can get a set of 5 11 by 17 prints on a pretty nice cardstock. It's not like super thin paper. It's a pretty decent cardstock that I use. The printer I use. So I'll have these 5 covers like this. The main cover and the Arosa cover will not have the title on it. And so you can get a set of these 5 11 by 17 and decorate your whole house with them. It's $30 plus shipping for that. So I had that down there as well. Rob says, one thing I can say about your projects, there are bigger, high dollar projects out there with some going way past projected target dates. I have SHK, that's me, has consistently delivered projects on time or ahead of target. Just wanted to say thanks. Well, thank you very much. It's really important to me to hit the target. The one time that I wasn't even late, it was just close to late, was the 80th anniversary special. And it's because my printer was having trouble with the square bound machine that they make those with. So I try and build in enough time. I'm expecting Quest, this issue will be 100% complete by the end of the campaign, or at the least by the time I get the money from the campaign, which will be 2 more weeks later. So it'll be like the 1st of July. I should have the comic done by then. I've got the first 5 pages are 100% completely done, and then the rest of the pages are in different stages of the art. They're all flatted. I just have to finish the coloring on about 10 pages, and then I have to do the lettering on about 15 pages, and the whole thing will be finished. So anyway, I'll have that. I should have that done by the end of June. So when I get the money from this campaign, I'll be able to go right to the printer. So I'm not really expecting any delays. The only wild card is I have to find a different printer, as I mentioned, for the metal covers. And so I don't really have a conception of what the time frame is for the metal covers. But everything else is going to be handled by my regular printer, including the foil covers. So I think everyone should get everything in time. I'm really curious about the metal covers. I've never actually seen a metal cover in person. I've seen pictures of them or videos of them, and they seem really cool, but I've never had any made. So if people end up liking the metal covers, or if I like them, if they're cool and I get them, and if they're very expensive to make, so if the finances work out, then I'll definitely be doing some more metal covers in the future. I was thinking about doing something like that for Crime Busters at some point, like just like a special edition of issue 1, maybe with a metal cover or something. Rob says, oh, and SHK, that's me, gives updates, lots of updates. I've got some pledges out to other creators who are ghosting their backers. That's always a tricky thing. Yes, I always give updates, and particularly once the campaign's ended, I always update, like, it's gone to the printer, I've got the proof back, I send an update, when I get the comics in, I send an update. When I'm mailing them out, I send an update. I want everyone to know all of the stages of the fulfillment. It is a little tricky during the campaign because I know some people kind of get irritated when they get an email from Kickstarter like every day or every other day with an update on the campaign. Some people don't like to send out very many updates. There's even some companies that do like the marketing that tell you not to do updates very often during the campaign, but I like to do lots and lots of updates even during the campaign. Share all the details. I like to share other people's campaigns, and I would much rather, I guess, err on the side of giving too much information. I get frustrated when creators don't have any updates. Particularly like they have a campaign that runs for 30 days and they reach their goal and there's no updates. There's no thank you. There's no nothing. I don't know. For me personally, as I am a super backer on Kickstarter, I also have some kind of other title on Kickstarter, but as a super backer myself, I get frustrated when there's no updates from people. Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap this up in a few minutes here. We've got about 8 minutes. When I hit 10 o'clock, I'm gonna wrap it up. So any other question? You can see here the incredibly cheesy animation. It took me like 2 hours to get this stupid glitter effect to try and show that it's a metal cover. Since I don't have any in hand, I was trying to figure a way to mock up the cover. The one I did on the sidebar actually looks better, but the resolution's so low that it only looks good in small size. So like if you look at that over on the sidebar where it's like that actually looks more like it's metal or something than the sparkles. But the animation technology available to me was rudimentary. Let's put it that way. The other thing that I don't have on my page at all is I don't have a video at the moment. I may do a video at some point, but for Kickstarter videos, I find that most people don't watch them. And I kind of feel like if you have a really cool video, it's worth doing. But if it's just me talking like this, which is what my videos usually are, I'm not 100% sure it really helps that much. I'm hoping at some point to get like have a animator do like a couple really cool short videos like Saturday morning cartoon intros, one for Crime Busters and one for Quest. And then once I have those, I think I'll be putting out some cool videos for my Kickstarters. But at the moment, I wasn't sure it was worth having that big ugly button messing up my image, my project image. So that's a little peek behind the curtains. So just refresh this. It's supposed to auto refresh, but it doesn't always. Yeah, we're almost at 1200, which is really great. I set the goal at 2900. We get to 2900. Charlie says you're the only one I back on Kickstarter. I guess I didn't realize how spoiled we all are. thanks, Charlie. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your backing. I always appreciate the support. I hope you're doing well down in Florida. You can see, I don't know if you can see the shirt that I'm wearing that my wife got me for my birthday. It's the this is the Epcot 82 shirt here. It says entertain, inform, inspire. My wife, I just had my 50th birthday a couple weeks ago. My wife did put together a birthday party for me that was Epcot themed. So I've got a whole bunch of vintage Epcot like throwback ride posters that I'm about to decorate my office with. And we're planning on coming down, but probably not until 2025. But we're planning a big Disney trip in 2025 because the first family trip that the Harris family went on to Disney World was in 1975. So 2 years from now will be the 50th anniversary of our first Disney trip. So we're gonna come down to Disney in 2025, and trying to invite all friends and family to sort of join me down there. Rob says, did she get you a Captain EO Halloween costume? No, I wasn't that big into Captain EO. I saw Captain EO, of course, a couple times. But because I'm red-green colorblind, the 3D glasses that they used to use that were red and green didn't work for me. And so none of the 3D effects were ever actually work for me. They were always out of focus. So things like Captain EO have always been a big letdown for me. Disney Nerd Herder says, sweet, our kitchen wall art is vintage kitchen cabaret and food rocks. I'm a huge fan of veggie fruit. That was my jam back in the day. So that's excellent. All right, we got about 2 minutes left to wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you keeping me company here. I appreciate all the support. We're going to be doing another live stream at the end of this Kickstarter. That's on Friday, June 16th. Now I set that Kickstarter end at midnight, so the live stream won't be starting until 11 p.m. Eastern. But you're welcome to join me there. And as I mentioned early here, some of you may not have been here yet, but we're working on some point in the next month or so before the campaign ends. We're trying to actually record a gaming session where we're going to play the story from issue 1. We're gonna play the characters from the comic, and we're gonna play through the mini module from the RPG edition of the comic, so you can see that, and I'll let you know when that happens. Thanks, Charlie. I really appreciate it. I hope everything's going well down there. I really appreciate all the support, and once we get closer to 2025, I'll let you know what our Disney plans are going to be. As you can see, I'm lying on a couch, so like at the moment, I physically can't do Disney. I'm just not able to do it. But I'm working on getting in shape and getting healthy for that trip in 2 years. That's the carrot that I'm chasing here to get healthy. So. Looking forward to seeing everybody and to seeing all the new rides that I haven't had a chance to go on yet. All right, I'm gonna close it down for the evening. Again, thank you everyone. At some point, I'll be posting somewhere the links to that playthrough session. Once we do it, it'll be over on the Really Dicey channel. And then again, you feel free to join me for another live stream on Friday, the June 16th for the closeout bash. But until then, thanks very much. Thank you all for the support. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Rob, Charlie, Chris, everyone else that was watching. And we'll see you next time.